Are you ready, boys and girls? Welcome, everybody, to the final. It's the final countdown. The final few episodes of Beyond 2D for season 3 and 2025. And we are going out, everyone, with a bang. You got I should have put a hoodie on. I'm very upset now.
Use the force, Luke.
I need everybody to do me a favor here. This series, we are lovingly calling. We're talking about it. That's what we're doing. Throughout the years, I think many of us have been told that we are not allowed to have a seat at the table for certain conversations. How many of you have ever heard you don't talk about religion, politics, insert whatever items people say there? How many of you have ever heard that? Raise your hand. Well, we decided we're going to talk about all of it. In the last 5 episodes of 2025 for Beyond 2D, we're going to have some special guests as time goes on to chime in on the topic. But I believe the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish here is to give all of you guys a seat at the table and to be honest about where we're at with these different things. And we're starting from the very beginning, peeling off the labels and talking about the need that we have as humans to belong, to feel that sense of belonging. When we get to the end, I need you to stick around because we're going to talk about what's coming the rest of this mini series here. But this is going to take us all the way through December. Ooh. And welcome to Beyond 2D. I'm Jessica Dugas. This is my co-host.
Oh, I'm Farron, Dozier. We about to talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We're talking about labels and belonging tonight, which I feel like is the foundation. If we can come together about this topic this evening, it's going to lay the groundwork for everything else that we're talking about. Because in order to be able to receive the other topics that we're going to discuss in this series, you have to be able to peel off the labels and examine your own need for belonging.
First, I would like to say thank you. We have had a blast on this Beyond 2D show for the last couple of years now. And, silently, I knew it would come to something like this because of the conversations that we've been having so openly and so honestly about just what it is to be a person, what it is to be human. Right. Hey. And so, silently I've been like, you know what? At some point we just got to go and address it. Yeah. Right. And who most best to be able to address it with 2 different dynamics, 2 different backgrounds, 2 different time zones, 2 different upbringings, male, female, and it's like, if you want to say skin color, label black and white, however you want to address the conversation, that's the it that we're talking about. Yeah. And I'm just glad that we're finally taking care of it.
Because when we were creating this show, that didn't come up.
No, never.
That was not a thing until after we actually got started with the show. And I think it was like maybe a conversation that we had after the show where we're like, you know how interesting this actually is that like you're a dad, I'm a mom, you're a black, I'm white, you're a boy, I'm a girl. Like you grew up like this. I grew like it wasn't until like afterwards that we were like, oh, we have different labels and I guess that's kind of cool.
Exactly. So we're going to expose the other labels.
We're going to expose it. By the way, Miss Sang D, we're going to literally and figuratively take Beyond 2D, Beyond 3D in 2 weeks time. For our next episode, but more on that later. Hang tight. Hang tight. All right. So let's do what we do sometimes here. I want to talk to you about the word label itself because I find this so interesting. So interesting. Okay. Please pause what you're doing while I'm over here playing homeschool teacher and invite people to watch this show because I'm telling you right now, the people need it. All right. There's a couple different definitions, and one of them takes us a little down a side rabbit hole, but I'm here for it.
You get it?
Right,
Okay,
you ready?
let's go. Yeah, let's
All
go.
right.
Let's go.
A short word or phrase descriptive of a person, group, intellectual movement, etc.
Wow.
A short word or phrase descriptive of.
Right.
Something describing. Okay. Easy peasy. This is the word label.
Keyword.
Next one, a word or phrase indicating that what follows belongs in a particular category or classification.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it started to get a little uncomfortable for me. I was kind of like, I don't know how. Okay, the wording is something for me here.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want y'all to grasp onto something tight with me here. You ready? A brand or trademark under which something is manufactured and sold.
The label.
Now, this one is a whole, we could have an entire show about this definition right here, because I just want you to just take a moment and take a deep breath and think about the world around you and listen to this. A label is a brand or a trademark under which something is manufactured and sold. Okay. And as we start peeling off these labels, I want you to think about them and could you possibly be being placed into a label or category or classification? All these words that we said in order to be sold to boys and girls.
Wait, there it is.
I'm coming. We're coming in hot tonight.
There it is. There's part of it right there.
There it is. So how do you feel overall about those definitions? Maybe not perhaps the rabbit hole one, but the other ones as well.
Okay, so bring up the first one. Let's peel that first one apart because it's right there. Descriptive of a person, right? Descriptive. And I don't want to get too far into the conversation from my part of this dialogue, but one thing that you cannot do as a person is describe another person. That's going to be one of the core conversations that you will need to use to unravel and to free yourself from what we're talking about. Because human beings, our brains are malleable. We can learn, we can grow, we can develop, we can change. But if I describe you as a label, then I begin to reference you as that label. And we talk about people like their chairs, like their tables, and that's the only way that they're fixed that they could be when they show up in my life. And then the conversations that comes with the world of being a table or a chair. So that descriptive, My Cousin Vinny is the best movie that I could say that describes that conversation. Those people swore that they saw what they saw coming out of the store and driving by in the car. Like they knew they had the description of those two gentlemen and what it turned out to be. So that's where the waters get muddy when we start to describe a person. So that's why I like that first one. Yeah, we have to peel those words off on how we describe life and describe people. That one. It goes with the other one, the category and the classification. That goes back to even looking back in time and people come from other countries coming here as a second-class citizen and agreeing to be a second-class. And what does that classification label do to you? Being labeled as a second-class citizen when your ancestors already came from a place where they were already emotionally challenged and sometimes fleeing their own homeland country to come here, United States, and be classed as a second-class citizen. Is a description. So that's
this one gets a little, because it starts talking about putting people in a box, and I have never been a person that feels good about that. Like I even like, look, I've always been a little bit of a rebel in that whatever somebody said, I kind of, even if I don't do the opposite, I think about doing the opposite.
Right,
I'm like, I don't like that. Don't tell me what I have to be, what box I have to be in, you know? So I always have had that little bit within me, I think, for that. But yeah, I don't. And then when we start talking about classification, and obviously the root of that word being class, we get into a lot of the root, especially when we talk about, I mean, I can only talk of our experience here in the United States when we talk about, you know, the creation of, which is so fun that we're coming up on this after, however, Columbus, Indigenous peoples, Canadian Thanksgiving, all the things that we honored yesterday. We're coming up on this conversation today, which is fun because when we talk about class, we talk about how people have been categorized in the creation of different nations and lands, and it gets interesting, which I'm sure we'll talk more about during in our conversation in a couple weeks.
Yeah, definitely that one, and then that last one. I mean, can you imagine that we're becoming someone's brand?
Listen.
Can you imagine that we're being shaped?
When I read this one, and obviously we know, like, look, if we go in our shirts, we probably have a label somewhere back here, right? Yeah. But this one, when I read it, and I read it to myself quietly and out loud, because I really wanted to get the feel of this one, okay? I was like, oh my word. Yeah. And it just sort of hits you in a way that it's new and different.
Yeah. Media, marketing, clothes, all of the categories.
Yeah.
The reality, I learned them as reality agreements,
right,
that we have in these categories. And so, yeah,
right.
I see what you see.
So, all right, let's start to peel this apart a little bit here. Labels themselves, we know based on the definition that they help give us language, right? They help us give us words for things, but they also are limiting. And I want to start to peel this one apart. So labels are meant to help us understand each other quickly: race, gender, career, diagnosis, personality type, etc. But the danger of this is, for me at least, is when the label becomes the identity and we stop seeing the human being behind the label. Yeah. So let's have fun here. And have there ever been any labels that you have given yourself, or could even be given to you by somebody else, that have benefited you by having a label?
Oh, that benefited me?
Yeah.
No, my first mind says no. No.
I bet if we sat here and thought about it.
A label?
Yeah.
No.
What about the label of being the head of the sickle cell organization that you run?
That's a role for me.
Well, it's also a label. It's a role, but it's also a label.
It's a title.
Because we could say that about anything.
Right, but that's why the definitions are so important, because a label versus a role could be two different conversations. Again, the part of it that for me is when you place these up against another person. Yes, there are things that need to be labeled in the world, right? There are things that need to be, but when you label a human being, I believe that that's where it becomes difficult and challenging, because if you're putting that label on someone else that doesn't think that that's what they are as the label, then there's conflict, there's rebellion, there's something. So am I going to let the world tell me what my labels are, or am I going to figure out what my labels are and then I get to tell you what my labels are, not you tell me what my labels are?
Right.
So a person may say, okay, you're the advocate of sickle cell trait awareness, and that's my label, but I don't look at it as a label. I look at it as a role, as what I get to do in life. It's not me as a person. So now you're limiting me. And that was one of my fears, being limited as only a sickle cell trait advocate. And then I can't show up no other way.
Right.
Like, no.
Right. That's where it becomes really challenging for many of us who are very multi-passionate about things, and we have to introduce ourselves.
Right.
And we could just, would you like to read my book? would you like to? That's where labels get really, because I mean, so the reason I asked why, like, if that particular label could benefit you is because if you walked into a room where someone was, let's say there was somebody in the room ready to give you $1 million for your organization, but you don't use that label of going, okay, I'm the head of this organization and let me tell you about it. You don't lean into that label, which then gives you, even without giving your expertise yet, it already gives you a leg up to this person, because knowing that you're the head of this organization, they're going to then listen to you. Because that label is there. Like it could be a stretch for people to think this way, but
I hear you.
The labels do place somewhat of a leg up to us when using them in a certain space or in a certain arena, when we're able to get something that we need for whatever we need in the moment.
That's my battle. I don't look at it. I don't wear my titles, and that's something that Farron is dealing with because of the identity crisis that comes with those labels. Right. So I'm already in the space of peeling off labels and titles to see who is Farron when all that stuff is done and with. Right. Who is Farron?
Right. Well, my point in this part of the conversation is simply saying that, because I'm about to come hard on how the labels are not useful. So I'm trying to give a little bit of a, like how we unconsciously use labels to move forward in our lives and in the world, to be able to get the things that we need in our lives. We use a lot of labels when we go to apply for jobs. We use a lot of, like, I'm a this kind of person. The labels that we like, I'm organized. Oh, I don't resonate with that label. I'm organized. I am timely. I am kind. These are all labels that we place on ourselves. They might not be titles. They might not be, but they're labels that we place on ourselves, which it helps us get where we need to be. So that's the 5 minutes of fame that I'm giving on how labels are useful.
Well, so when I sat with it while you were talking, listening to you add more flavor to it, I could see where, because with me, mental health is a label. And if I walk in the room and I'm a mental health educator, then, hey, they're going to listen to me based off of that label or title of me connected to the main label, which is mental health. So I can see that. I can see that. Right. I get you. I get it.
Yep.
I don't like it, but I get it.
That's all we're supposed to do. We're just coming to an understanding during this conversation.
I don't like it, but I get it.
So as I said, when the danger becomes when the label becomes the identity and we stop seeing the human behind it. And I think there's also a big difference whether we give ourselves a label or whether somebody else gives it to us. I'm a blank becomes a box that we live in and that others judge us by. Yeah. So if I say, I feel like I'm a really kind person, I feel like that obviously that's from my own perspective and my own, I'm sure there will be people throughout history that'll disagree with me for whatever reason. But I also feel a sense of comfort that I can live by that. When somebody else says Jessica's really a really kind person, it feels good. But then at the same time, there's pressure that comes with that. And I'm not necessarily just saying kind person. It could be anything. Jessica's very generous. Jessica's a generous person.
Does that pressure? But I think that pressure doesn't come from the outside force. It comes from our inner force, like our
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But what we're trying to show here, the challenges that labeling people can bring. And it's not to say we can't point out when somebody is, a nice or generous person, to use those same two examples, but to forget that we're human, there's a human behind that, is the challenge. So that if I do something that, like, say you've labeled me as a generous person, and then I do something that in your eyes you don't deem as generous. Now your idea of that label that you put on me is warped.
Right, exactly.
Now we have a challenge because you've put me on a pedestal of generosity.
Exactly.
As opposed to remembering, hey, I know of a time when Jessica was really generous, and like leaving it as a moment as opposed to a pedestal that we put someone on.
Yeah. And I think, not that I think, but I know and see it as that's what happened to us as our children, to their father and mother. They grew up in that environment. Mom and dad is a superhero. You can do no wrong. And then one day, they're like, where'd that come from? And now that child's perception changes of that father or mother. And then that, whatever label they give that parent becomes the truth about that parent. So, and again, we do it to each other like that as conversation. So I see you on that one too.
Yeah. Yeah. Sang said, I leverage my labels to defy societal norms. And see, that's what I mean by, like, going back to what I was talking about in the beginning, how we really can use labels to our benefit, especially when it comes to being able to do the things that we need to do to move forward in the world. Now, again, this can all, your utilization of those labels can speak to who you are as a human being, depending on what and how they're used. And so remembering that piece of authenticity, remembering that piece of integrity and the principles that we live by is something important. And the things we've talked about already in 3 seasons of this show.
Like I like her comment, but then it also puts me in the space of how exhausting can it be to try to defy society, right? That you have to put that on as a cape, as a jacket, in having your conversations in life, when you just show up. Like we just want to be able to just show up and just, hey, this is who I am. I'm the biggest jerk in the room today, so let's have some fun, right? Instead of like, I gotta put this way of being on to survive society. Like, and so I appreciate her comment, but what's important for me is listen to the heart of man. People say, where they are in life, and it's good to be able to have that skill to listen, so how people are describing their life, right? And their labels even. So it's beautiful in communication when you can have that conversation and listen, say, then I would say, so why did you pick that word to describe yourself in that instance, right? And then that opens up a dialogue than me judging her based off of that conversation. Right. That's the freedom that we want to have in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I put this question in the chat, just something to think about for everybody. Do you know who you are without the things that others call you or the things you've claimed out of survival? Do you know who you are without being called? Let's see. What are some of the things we've been called, Farron?
Use the force, Luke.
Mom, I'm called 1 million times a day.
Oh, yeah. Dad, Mom.
Mom,
yeah,
mommy.
Just all those titles.
Wife.
All those labels.
Host.
Broadcaster.
Producer.
Advocate. Yes.
Yeah.
Basketball team owner. He's the owner, the co-owner. Exhausting.
Homeschooler. Yeah. I've been called so many things.
Deacon.
Throughout the years.
Youth speaker.
And it's interesting because I've talked about before, being a very nostalgic person, how I think in exploring that with myself, one of the things that I've discovered is it can be challenging to let go of those labels, because especially when they become part of our identity, who we say we are. And one of the biggest ones for me has been in the realm of being a musician and a singer, and how hard that has been for me to like not because I don't really like, I still sing, yes, but I'm not involved in it like I once was, even though I still really have the passion for it, but I don't prioritize it. I don't make time for it. It's not my business. I didn't go to school for it. I'm not doing it in the realm of like I was. And so there's people in my life that are like, oh, well, you're still a musician, Jessica. Well, I'm not like, I feel like it's like when you say like, okay, I'm a Christian, but like, are you practicing? Are you practicing it though? And so it's interesting to think about that in terms of holding on to things. And I've really, as I've been working on my personal branding lately around my Jessica business, not necessarily the part of the business that I've created with the Breakthrough Show Network, but Jessica Dugas, and who is she and what does that look like? That part has been so hard for me. So hard. Because like some of what you were talking about hanging on to things and being multi-passionate, and like a lot of these, I don't know. It's been more challenging than I thought it was going to be, because it's like examining, okay, what labels do I need to let go of? What titles, what things are not serving me right now? And some of that is hard.
And I appreciate you for saying that, because I'm a musician. I play the congas. I was in a band. I played in the church band. I have a set here in my living room. But what I can tell you is my freedom in that. It's a self-expression. That's something that I've learned in my education. Yeah. That it's not a label, it's a self-expression. And I played those congas and stuff in church. I played the timbales in high school, and then I never played again for 20 years. And then I get into this education where I'm peeling off my identities and transforming my life and softening my heart. And guess what comes up again? The conga player. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I have an opportunity to be in this band. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. And I bought another set. Like, it became a self-expression of Farron. Right?
But see, it's still a label. And the reason why it's still a label is because you've chosen not to put that label on yourself. It's still a label. You've just chosen not to put it on yourself. I didn't know until right in this moment that you play. I never have any. So here's another argument for labels, is that it's a way for us to it's a method of discovery, to discover things about other people. When they're outright about putting a label on themselves about things, then we learn new things about them too.
That's what I'm saying. That's what the freedom is, the self-expression. Yeah. To say, hey, you know what? I'm not a musician where I play in concerts every week or practice every day, but I do have skills that I could express myself on a pair of congas, right? Or timbales or bongos, that I could hold a note and play in the band if I put put the time in. The other label, like for me, is being an author. I've written 3 inspirational reads. They're on Amazon. I do not want that label as an author, and I don't even promote it as such, because of what I look at a label of an author, that I hear people as authors express that they're being an author, and I don't want to come across like none of that.
It's your own definition of what being an author is. So I think this is a great sort of discovery point here for everybody, is whether we have labeled ourselves or we have labeled someone else, that is our definition of it. It's not, and even if even if it's the truth that it's the textbook definition of it, even if you look up whatever label you've given in the dictionary and it says exactly what you think it is, that still doesn't mean that that's how someone else labels it or perceives it.
Exactly.
So that's like a huge thing to remember. Before we go to break, I want to talk about one more point, which is how labels fuel division. And we have a big division problem in the world right now, and we're going to talk about this more as our series goes on. But labels create an us versus them narrative. Okay. Political, liberal versus conservative, societal, introvert versus extrovert, cultural, black versus white, American versus immigrant, gay versus straight, health, neurodivergent versus neurotypical. All of these micro divides make it really, really difficult to truly connect with one another because people start to define their worth and their tribe by exclusion. This is a huge, huge issue, and one that I have a really, really difficult time understanding. I'm going to bring up something that is going to, somebody going to get upset, but I'm going to use it because it's a great example.
Okay.
Charlie Kirk, that was killed recently. There, around the time of his death, there was a lot of, and there still is a lot of videos going around about, from clips of some of the debates he had done and things like that.
For sure.
And there was a gentleman who came in the room and introduced himself. And I always found this part of his debates interesting, of how people would introduce themselves, because that starts to really speak to the labels that we have. But this gentleman came in the room and he said he started his question something about how he's a gay conservative.
Right.
And that was the order he put it in, and that's what he said. And Charlie said, why are you leading with that? Like, right. I don't understand what that has to do with any. And he's like, well, I'm trying to figure out if I have a place in the conservative movement because I'm gay and because conservatives think. Like, and you really, like, if you just listen to some of these clips, you can really get a grip on the labels that we put on each other and the notions that we have of
the notions.
Like what that. I mean, it's what we think exists with each of these labels, and it just can't. I would be hard pressed to find a person who is defined by a certain label that ticks every box that label holds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I would be really hard pressed, I feel like, to find that. But to his point, I actually agreed with that to a point, because I'm like, what does that have to do with anything?
Yes.
Really? Like, identity. I could see it being useful if you were on a dating app. You could lead with that. Like, you could, because then people know who you date. There you go. But I don't know what that has to do with it's an inability to compartmentalize for me a little bit, I think, is what it is.
It's for me, it's I guess it's easier because I've done my work around that, and it's the identity. It's how I'm describing, how I'm surviving this life that I'm living, and I'm describing it as a Black male. Right, I'm describing my experience of all of my emotions and ideas and thoughts and feelings and blah blah blah, and what I've been told in the past, so who I need to be and what the world says I need to be. So I'm a Black male.
But then my question would be, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it means it's going to mean that sometimes I have it harder than other people. Sometimes it means that I have to deal with the different challenges of how I'm viewed when I show up in a room. Right. So if I go outside, if I identity crisis, sometimes I'll leave the house and I'll say, am I gonna wear my WDC hat or my basketball hat or my military retired hat? Because I know that when people see me and they see that hat, if I don't have that military hat on, I might get a treatment that might be subpar human being, right?
Yeah.
And if I put that military retire hat on, what is that going to do when people see me? They're going to acknowledge that hat before they acknowledge Farron. So sometimes when I even leave the house as a black male, I got to figure out where am I going, what's going to be around, what culture, what other people, blah, like all that silently plays a factor when I leave my house, even to go to the store. So being a black male comes with all of what society has to say, and then what Farron has to say, what my family had to say, what my friends has to say. And if I'm filtering my life through all of that, how am I going to leave this house and show up dressed as a label, as a black male?
Right.
And that's, you know how exhausting that is.
And it's interesting to me because what came up for me as you were describing all that is an overwhelming, and I pick up on this when I hear anybody describe like what their thing means to them, no matter what the label. It's a sense of competition. Because a lot of times when I hear so I'm able to sit here and listen to you share about your experience as a black man, and I don't take it any kind of way because I'm not
right.
Can't chime in on that. I can't chime in on that experience. But I also think what happens is when you get people start being defensive is because I hear the things, and I'm able to see this because I hear the things in my own mind. Do you mean to tell me that nobody else has to think about other things before they leave the house?
Right.
Do you mean to tell me that nobody, and instead of honoring someone's experience for the experience they're having, we're jumping to this place about, well, me too.
Right.
And I have these things and I do these things. So one thing that cracks me up is a lot of these videos that come across the Facebook and the TikTok and all that. Where somebody says something to the effect of like, you might be from a black family if,
right.
Or you might be from a white family if, and there was one day when I must have watched 12 of them videos in a row, and I'm like, am I black? Because we did that in my family too.
Thank you.
Like, I'm confused.
Exactly.
And we want so badly to grab onto whatever that we're purposely, it's like we're excluding everybody else that they could possibly know what we could be going through.
Exactly. And that's what the labels do
right.
And that's why this conversation is important, because it's not just on the activity of it, but it's the experience of the exclusion, which is an emotional charge that even if you feel like you're included by your race, it's still an emotional exclusion in reverse, because I'm included and they're not. So
right.
Not that you even said I'm better than them, but your behavior and your attitude expresses that conversation by saying, "Oh, at least I ain't black." Yeah. It's like, well, what does that mean? So you have all these different emotions, but I'll wait till after the break because I know this is going to move forward. But it's the ability, and you say competition, and then I look at it like, hey, Farron's just trying to be accepted when he leaves the house.
Right.
Because I might not even be accepted in my own house.
Yep.
So then I got to put this whole outfit on that when I walk through the crowd outside. Hey, when I put that, and sometimes I wear that military hat, not to get acknowledged for my compliments, but to like, this hat means leave me alone today.
Right.
Right. So,
well, and to be clear, I wasn't saying what you were saying is a competition. Yeah. I'm saying the reason why we can't have a conversation about is because that's what it turns into.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what, exactly. Because it's like
yeah.
Like we all deal with something.
Yeah.
And it's not right or wrong.
Yep.
Right. It's just
it just is.
This is what it is, and this is what it ain't. And sometimes you started the show. What is this not?
Right.
So let's figure out what it's not so we can figure out what it is.
Right.
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 Instead of figuring out what it is.
We have a little less than 20 minutes to get three more points. So we're going to take a quick break and come back right after this. Don't listen. Tell us what you think in the comments so far. What are your thoughts? We'll be right back after this.
Right back.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
Welcome back to Beyond 2D with the 1D, Jessica Dugas, and a 2D, Farron Dozier.
Count.
We are starting our final series of 2025 by talking about who are you without the labels, exploring identity and belonging. And before the break, we were defining the word label and talking about the origins, which is really interesting. Actually, I have something with that I'm going to finish up with at the end because it's going to be a moment for everybody. And we talked about how labels give us language, but also limit us, and how labels fuel division. Why do you think, Farron, that we resist the label human?
Because at some point, I will be forced to be in touch with another person emotionally that I've vowed to myself that I never want to experience those emotions again because of the pain, mainly, right? And I say that because if you understand your brain and you understand the subconscious mind and what it's designed to do for us as people, it's designed to keep us safe and keep us alive, right? And your brain can't tell the difference between a real and an imaginary threat. So it all feels like a threat if it's coming from a place of survival and protecting myself, and especially protecting my feelings and emotions of being disappointed again, or being shamed, or being embarrassed. I will eat my arm off before I allow myself to feel that pain, especially in front of someone else, and giving my power away to you. And so I don't want to. No, I'm black and you're white, and that keeps me disconnected from you.
Yeah,
in a sense of emotionally. But then, does it really though?
Saying a person gets to decide how they define those labels for themselves and or their experiences. And I think that's why this topic is so important, because we need to understand and know that, yes, we absolutely get to decide what those labels are, but that, yes, it also can be a space. By doing that, we are choosing sometimes to be divisive, to create a hierarchy and all of these things in our mind that, depending on what our goals are as an individual, and then also what we hope for society, depending on what those goals are, we have to look at labels a little bit differently and how we're using them. Claiming the label human means that we have something in common with everyone, even those that we despise, we fear, or we believe are wrong. And we already talked about that once in the show, about how we have this need to be right as humans. And so this is terrifying to people because, one, it dissolves our sense of moral hierarchy. It forces empathy in really uncomfortable places. And it removes the ego boost that we get from being different or better than.
Mm-hmm. In the survival state of mind, that is required.
Yeah.
It's required.
Are we afraid to be human? Put that as our, imagine just walking in. Hi, I'm Jessica Dugas. And that's it. Are we afraid to be human because it puts us on the same level as people who have done unspeakable things?
Hey,
we have to go further, deeper and deeper down the label hole to be able to figure that one out.
I guess I can drop one of my. It's going to be my go-to for the whole series. Is sometimes that label is my opinion about myself, and then the label becomes then opinion about the other person. So once I label that person as my opinion, and I'm gauging it off of myself, if I feel like I'm a good person, but I've been told I'm a bad person, and here you come as thinking you're a good person. Mm-hmm. Guess what? What makes you think you're better than me as a good person when I know I'm a good person? But even though subconsciously I've been taught or I've been told or I've been spoken to as I'm not a good person for doing that one episode. So now I have all these different opinions about myself, and they're going to be expressed in my behavior and in how I talk. That's why the conversation is so beautiful, because all you have to do is just listen to how people talk and how they describe themselves or describe life. And they're actually sharing with you of how they view themselves in this world as a description. Not right or wrong or good or bad. We're not having that conversation, but it allows you to hear that person show up in life. And then you get to speak to the opinion, the color, skin color, or are you listening to what they're really saying behind what they're saying?
Right.
Person, then you can speak to that. So again, we react so easily to conversations, but if you really listen to a person and where they're saying, where it's coming from, then you go past all that label and that skin color, and you're like, hey, what is that? Like, I'm interested in why did you say that?
Yeah.
And that, you know what that does for a person? Like, you heard me? Like, you heard me?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you heard me? Like, that brings tears to my eyes, because that's what's underneath all of this stuff that we're attempting to peel off, Jessica.
Yeah.
Is that 100%. Person underneath there that just wants to be heard. I'm a gay whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to be heard. You ain't got to speak to that.
Right.
I'm a black male.
I think that's what you're talking about is such a huge part of why we continue to micro label ourselves as well, is because if we didn't get the people to hear us in the group or the community or the label that we were in before, then we go to the next. we go to the until we're heard. And this is a oh my God, it's just such an issue. Imagine if we listened as a human, listen as a human, and then Like it's wild to me. I gotta point this out really quickly because this is why we're going 3D in a couple weeks. One time someone asked me, "What are you?" knowing they were referencing my race, and I said, "A human." They continuously pressed me to define myself, and I didn't. They were very upset that I wouldn't. And this is why, dang, it's sang. That's my intro, that's my intro for saying, because I'm not saying, I'm like, what I still remember when I made the post, and you and I talked about this again recently, around election time last year. And it was a post about coming together and loving each other and all of these things. And somebody told me that I was privileged. Somebody told me because I was talking about love, because I won't pick a side. I will not do it. I am not going to do it. And people get mad when you don't label yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they get mad.
I lost my friend. I lost an associate around the political conversation because I wouldn't admit to that I wanted to bash Trump. So now I'm a Trump supporter because I won't bash him.
See, that's the thing. Like, if you choose the label of peace or joy or love or humanity or any of these people can't wrap their head around that because they think if you're going to do this and that has to mean the opposite side. There's a quote, and I just can't right now with who said it, but they said that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference or something like that. Yeah. But if you choose, it takes me down a hole.
I was always told, "Oh, Farron, you can't think like that. You have on rose-colored sunglasses," and I'm like, "What's wrong with that?" Because I don't have an opinion, or because I'm not upset like you're upset about that conversation. That I choose my peace to not argue or go. So now you're gonna talk about me as a negative, as wearing rose-colored sunglasses, like. Because my perception is at peace with that subject. Yeah. Like, no, we do that to people all day.
And also just because you don't wear a label on your shirt. Okay. Like think about it. If you go to a party, right. And they're passing out those like, hello, my name is. Yeah. Just because if you don't put one of those stickers on your shirt, you're still Farron. Right. You know, that doesn't mean that you just cease to exist. So I think sometimes people feel like because you don't wear a label on the front porch, that means that you are just allowing, or, you know, that you're not passionate about things, or you're not whatever, just because you choose not to wear it on the outside as a certain way. You don't know what people do behind the scenes. No. You have no idea. Especially on social media. That's a little trailer of somebody's life, and if that. I want to quickly touch on these other two things. One is about labels keeping us stuck in cycles. When we cling to labels, we argue to defend the label instead of listening, which we've already talked about a little bit. We stay in relationships or roles out of obligation to the identity. Of it. We avoid growth that would require shedding or changing that label. And this is some of what I was talking about, you know, when you start to shift things in your business, sometimes it can be hard to let go of labels that maybe, you know, whatever. So for example, and I've used one of these labels tonight, I've always been the strong one, or I'm a rebel, and then they feel trapped by that role. So I've always been, or I am a person who, or I am, this is who I am. You know, when you claim those, then it can. Prime example of this, Stacey Brayuka, who has the Show Me Your Nuts show on the Breakthrough Show Network. Her logo and everything that she does is about the squirrel. Now, some of you guys have been with me a really long time, years pre the Breakthrough Show Network. And for the longest time, my thing that I grasped onto was the squirrel, because I felt like I was pulled in 20 different directions all the time. I'm very diagnosed ADHD. Like I have, my brain goes 24 million miles an hour, all hours of the night. So I have all of these things going on in my head. Right. And so I always referred to like my spirit animal is the squirrel. At some point that got really exhausting for me, but people were sending me squirrels in the mail, for Christ's sake. Like, I mean, really, like little stuffed squirrels. My mother just sent me a squirrel a couple weeks ago. Okay. What? I cannot get out from, but so it was hard to be like, I finally, literally earlier this year, somebody had sent me a squirrel something, and I was like, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't identify with the squirrel anymore. And because it's exhausting for me and I don't want to do it. So I was sort of happy that Stacy came in the network and took over. So all the squirrels that y'all want to send me, please send them to Stacy, because I'm not having it anymore. I don't even feel in that same energy anymore. I feel like it's wild to me how different I've sort of evolved since that time. But like, don't send me the squirrels anymore, guys, because it doesn't suit me anymore.
It's the whole point of, again, why we want to have this discussion, because a lot of, even in my development the last 15 years, I didn't realize that the emotional issues and the stories, and I'm not good enough, and I'm not worth it, and I'm this, and I'm not, how mentally exhausting that is to live that life. And people don't realize that living that life of how you think about yourself in such a negative or a disempowering context is not just physical exhausting, it's mentally exhausting. And we wonder why people are on edge or so upset or looking angry, because they're exhausted of pretending like I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not okay. And it's challenging for us to be like, hey, you know what? No, I'm not okay. But if I tell you that, then are you going to judge me? Are you going to label me? If I got to go to mental health now, they're going to label me I'm crazy. I got PTSD, like all of that. But I'm just saying, for those of you that are listening, you've got to apply that to yourself first to free yourself from those exhausting emotional conversations. It's not just it gets expressed in your physical body, but the living that life emotionally is exhausting. And when you get a glimpse of that peace of mind, you're going to be like, oh my goodness. You mean I could take that label off and I could just be, Farron? Like how freeing that was.
Yeah.
My vitality came back of my experience of myself. Like the room got brighter. All because of how I recognized how mentally exhausting I was, beating myself up about these labels and my experiences. And I want to say this before you go. You went in the order, right, of how it starts. I teach it from the child to parent. Imagine growing up in your family and you want to be heard, and now you got a voice and you can talk and you've got ideas and questions, and your mom and dad tells you, get out of here, I ain't got time, go sit down. Like, I'm going to go turn to somebody else for information to be heard. And it may be someone who is not a good person that's going to say, hey, I got you. Come over here and hang out with me. Oh, they're not talking to you. I got you. Let me tell you what that's about. But when really I want to be connected to my mom and dad.
Yep.
Not a political party. Not a gang. Not a drug dealer. Not a pimp. Not hanging out with my friends stealing stuff out the store. Like, I really want to be at home talking to my mom and dad like, hey, help me figure this out. But because you didn't listen to me, or you label me as I'm your child and you don't get no say so, then I'm going to go find somewhere else to get that, to be heard.
Right. Everybody has that need to belong. Yeah. And that's what Sang's talking about in this comment here. Some people take on labels to fit in. And huge. It's a problem. it's a problem, guys. And we have to look at, one, doing that personal work, like, do you even belong to yourself? Like, you know, like, do you, like, where is some of that coming from? And then if we have that, like, need to belong, where and with who are we trying to belong to?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, who are we trying to connect ourselves with? And part of this too, I wanted to quickly talk about, you know, moving on beyond labels here as we discuss this. You got to be willing to say, I don't know who I am without that.
Mm-hmm.
And examining that a little bit, and that's okay. It's okay to be like, I think, you know, before the Breakthrough Show Network, I worked with moms. I had a mom group, and I stopped working with moms because people couldn't get out from behind that label, because they didn't know who they were without mom. And it's not saying that you're not a mom by not being married to that label. It's giving yourself permission to experience freedom. It's okay, you're a mom, and like, what else would you like to be?
But that's, you know, what I say, they're roles. People, we're human beings, right? We're people first, and then I became a father as a role for me. A grandpa is a role for me. And if I don't know how to be that role, I get to go get educated, or I go to go find out what is it to be a father? Because maybe I don't know what that looks like, or I didn't have a good example. So a lot of times, that's why I say our language for me is so important. It's important how I talk and how I choose my words, because there's some words in language that I used to use that I don't use anymore because they don't give me any power. It take my power away. And so understanding for me that a father is a role, it's not a person. I'm Farron first, and then I'm the role as a father, then I'm the role as a grandfather, I'm a role as an advocate, I'm a role as a owner of a basketball. Those are roles that I take on. But as soon as I put me in it as an identity, it's all bad.
That's it.
It's all bad.
Yep.
And for some people, like I said, it might feel empowering as an activity, but then you have to look at your experience of yourself in those identities.
Right.
They can be exhausting.
Lean into shared experiences and values, not surface level categories.
Yes.
Is so important. And I feel like so much of this is as we start to go, okay, like, how do we communicate about these labels? Right. Being willing to listen without that comparison piece that I was talking about, the competition, the comparison. You can have very similar experiences. And some of it comes down, I mean, somebody might not know to come in and go like, this is my experience, not this is my experience as, you know, insert whatever label here. It could just be, this is my human experience. So practicing some of the experiences that you say you're having as with, I am a human first. Yeah. So saying like, I experience this, not, and try to leave off the as a girl, as a white girl, as a mom, as a wife, and it's so hilarious because in the world of sales, we're taught to use that as a sales pitch.
Wow.
In the world of sales. So that takes us back. Wow. To the definition, guys, when next time you're being sold to, okay? And even there is a very popular saleswoman out there who's been around a really long time, who's all over social media, and I don't even have to say her name. She tells you to start your pitch with, as a person who. Okay, so we go back to that, what you're identified as, okay? These labels, just drop it. I want to say this, okay? Labels may offer belonging, but only if you stay inside the line. When you let go of labels, you make room for connection that doesn't need a box to justify it.
That's a whole nother word to deal with.
It's a whole, okay. And I want to tell you the origin of the word label, because this is a good reminder as we finish off today. The use of the word label was first recorded between the years of 1275 and 1325. Middle English from Middle French, ribbon, perhaps from Germanic language, lap. Lap, originally, when you go to look up the Germanic origin of lap, it is a piece of clothing or garment. Now, here's the interesting part of this. What can you do with a piece of clothing or garment whenever you want to, Farron?
Okay, put it on and take it off?
Put it on and take it off. So here's the freedom in the origin of this word label. At any point, you can choose to take on, put on, or take off a label. At any point, you can choose what you're going to lean in. What are you going to wear on the outside? A label is just this. It's just a piece of clothing. It's something that you put on. So do you want that to be what you judge yourself and everyone else judges you for? Because you got no control over that. They're going to do it regardless. Or do you want it to be, do you want to lead with something else?
Yeah. And I'll end it kind of in my version of what you said earlier about the competition and you know, whatever that looks like for that person. Well, my ministry that I've been blessed with, that I teach from, that a great percentage of when I peeled off all of my labels was underneath at the root of it was my opinion about Farron. And God has shown me that I'm able to share from my opinions of how I viewed myself that correlates with how people in the world have their own version of those stories of how they view themselves. So if when I learned to give my opinion about myself, then I was able to give my opinion about you.
Yeah.
Because I realized that those opinions hurt me first more than it hurts anybody else.
Yeah.
And being able to find my freedom in my own view of Farron has allowed me to, it opens up the space for empathy, compassion, for humility, for love, for a percentage of trust, you know, confidence in other people. It opens up the space, but I had to be able to find that for myself first. And I realized that I had a lot of negative opinions about Farron that just, it wasn't true.
Yeah.
I may have had past experiences and I had proof at that time to say, oh yeah, I'm that kind of person. Oh, I am that kind of person. And then take on that behavior, but it was also hurtful behavior. It was also a hurtful label, because then I don't feel like I'm that kind of person, but now you label me as that kind of person. Now I'm fighting to remove the label of how you just identify me as I am as a chair.
Yep.
But yeah, I could stand on this chair to change the light bulb, but it's not a ladder. So yeah, I'm not a chair. But that's how we talk and describe other people, but also that's how we describe ourselves. And the freedom is peeling off those labels about yourself first and your opinions about yourself. That's where you probably hear me go from this point to the rest of this episodes. They're going to tie into what's your opinion about that.
Yeah.
Because that opinion may not be your own influence. That opinion about yourself may not be it may be somebody else's influence.
You will for sure see why this episode was important as the weeks go on. In 2 weeks' time, on October 28th, we will be joined by an individual who you may have seen their comments pop up this evening. And we're taking 2D to beyond 3D as we introduce to you Farron D, Sang D, and Jessica D. And we are talking about race. In 2 weeks, everybody. We're talking about race. On November 11th, which is actually happening on Veterans Day, we are talking about war and peace, talking about a military label, war label, peace label.
I've been trying to peel that label off so bad. I can't peel it either.
November 25th, we are talking about politics, boys and girls. The red, the blue, and what happens when you combine them together, the purple. Which ironically is the color of the Breakthrough Show Network, everybody. So I just want you to sit on that for a minute as we go back to that label definition about buying and selling. And then we will finish off on December 16th with religion. Religion, spirituality, faith.
Thank you, Jesus.
All of these things in between. It's going to be phantasmic.
Woo! You ready?
Everything that they've said we should not talk about, we're talking about in the last 5 episodes of 2025.
You ready? We're going to go into 2026 with a bang.
We're going in with the bang, everybody.
You ready?
Yeah, it's gonna be great. And again, next episode, there it is.
Let's go 3D.
3D, it's finally happening. See, we've had other people on the show, but it's never worked out with the D before.
Not like that, no.
You don't understand what this has done for us, Sang. Dang, it sang.
Solidified the episode.
We're going to have so much fun, everybody. But listen, this is your challenge the next couple of weeks till we come back. Start identifying places where where a label has a stronghold over you in your life. Where have certain labels become your identity? And just don't be, I would say this, don't be quick to say whether or not that label is serving you or not, because sometimes you don't even know, like you really don't even know sometimes, and what you're quick to hold on to and why, and what's your definition of that label, and recognizing that somebody else's definition of that label could be something so incredibly different that you have no idea.
Even, I just thought about, I know we got to go, but we even debate male and female as labels.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my goodness, I can't even call myself a male anymore, like, without catching some kind of flack.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
There's a lot. There's a lot of this, and there's things that I'm not coming into this conversation. Like I said, I shared one of my frustrations earlier with using labels to introduce yourself. There's certain things where I'm like, why does that even matter? What does that have to do with anything? And most of the time it really doesn't. I find myself getting really frustrated.
I don't like the term black male. Like black men, like we're separate from the rest of the culture.
What is, and I sit back going like, what does that even mean though? Yeah. Because it's interesting to think about as we get into this race topic in a couple weeks. It's interesting to think about, like I have so many friends that are in different parts of the world that are black, but they like, there's so many things underneath that. Like, I think of more of like, where is your family from? Like, what do you feel connected with? Like, what do you know about certain part? You know, like to me, it's so much more layered than black, white, Asian, whatever. Like, there's so much more to that.
We don't generalize on our show, but I can tell you as a black culture, right? Blacks that are in the United States have so many labels from the past that being a black male tries to separate us, right, from that other stuff, so that you can see that, yeah, I'm black, I'm a male, and these are the struggles that come with being a black male, when all of us have struggles in our own cultures, in our own versions. No one's different. But the blacks that are here in the United States, that were born here especially, We have the slavery conversation. We have the Jim Crow era. We have the being 3/5 human beings from the South. Like all that still perpetuates what it is to be Black in the United States for some. Not me, but for some.
Yeah.
And that's why it leads with that. I'm a Black male and I'm different than white males or Hispanic males, but we're not.
It goes back to when we talked about why we resist the label of human, because it dissolves our sense of moral hierarchy. It forces empathy in uncomfortable places, and it removes the ego boost we get from being different or better. And this is one thing that we really have to admit where labels are concerned, is that there is an ego boost that we get whether we like it or not. There's something that happens up in this little brain of ours that we get because we're different. We get to be different.
Yeah, I'm a Black man. What you talking about? I'm a Black male. You don't even know. I'm a Black male. What you talking about? You don't even know.
There's something magical that happens with these labels. Let the labels go. Let your label for the next 2 weeks be human, and just tell me how that feels in a couple weeks.
Give up your opinion about yourself. That's my request. Give up your opinion about who you say you are.
Hi, Stacy. We talked about that one too, actually, tonight. In the health arena, neurodivergent versus neurotypical. I know how much you love that word. Because when we get to be different, we get to be special.
Hey.
And I'm special in very special ways. Hello?
You ready? You ready?
Okay, we're going to have fun in a couple weeks going 3D, everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here this evening. We appreciate you opening the floodgates of what. Listen, it's going to get. This was mild tonight, everybody. So I just want you to keep that in mind as we move forward.
We still danced around a lot of it because it's going to come out in the other episodes, but
that's it.
We danced around it though.
We did a little cha-cha.
Remember that?
To the left, to the right, to the front. Okay, anyway.
All right.
We got to go. Thank you, Farron, for being my partner in crime in this conversation.
Let's go get them.
Ooh, love you guys so much. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Peace. Bye, everybody. If I can find the button, where is it? It's time. It's time to go. Goodbye.